All right, technical difficulties have been quasi-resolved, so we are going to call this joint meeting for the Board of Education and Town Council to order for Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. The time is 7:12 p.m. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Deb, would you please call the roll?
Mary Beecher.
Here.
Sean Halloran.
Here.
Marissa Lansing.
Here.
Here.
James Karate.
Here.
Sam Sarah.
Here.
Brian Kilo.
Here.
Jeff Stanley.
Here.
Jessica Weaver.
Here.
Hello.
Here.
Kelly Bennett.
No, but it's here on the minutes.
Yes. And the Mayor John Custer.
Here.
Okay. So I'll accept Ms. Gonzalez. She's not online.
And Ms. Rotten.
Oh, and okay.
I'm here.
Oh, Kathy's on. Okay.
Sorry, it's cutting in and out.
No worries, Kathy. Glad you're here. Okay. I would like to open it up for public participation on any matter related to board responsibilities. We are increasing the time to 4 minutes. And if you, yes, policy to come later on. So yeah, if there's anyone online or no hands. Okay. And then presentation of award proclamations. We have our everyday hero. I will turn it over to Dr. Brummett.
My pleasure. It is my pleasure to introduce Jason Lambert, principal of Martin Kellogg, as our everyday hero for this evening. And I did note there are a lot of Martin Kellogg folks on the line. He was nominated by Luz Gisela Perez, the library media specialist at Kellogg. And here's what she wrote. Mr. Lambert at Martin Kellogg has been a cornerstone of Newington Public Schools' collaborative equity efforts by fostering an environment where every individual feels seen, heard, and supported. His leadership is a clear reflection of the district's mission to create a great place to teach and learn. He's built a culture of respect and collaboration. Since I started working here, I have seen Mr. Lambert invite those he leads to collaborate with him and others. He has established a genuinely collaborative environment where staff members are called by name and given a voice in discussions. This commitment to shared leadership ensures that everyone's unique perspective is valued and that staff feel a true sense of ownership in their work. This is a foundational step toward equity as it empowers every member of the team and breaks down traditional power structures. He's provided tailored support to empower staff. Beyond just inviting collaboration, Mr. Lambert provides tangible, individualized support to help staff excel, whether it's one-to-one discussion to work through a challenge, securing necessary teaching materials, or helping a teacher navigate administrative systems. His support is consistent and timely by ensuring that every teacher has what they need to succeed. Mr. Lambert directly contributes to a more equitable teaching and learning environment. The result is a system where staff can focus on their primary mission, providing the best possible education for every student. He champions diversity and inclusion. Mr. Lambert's commitment to equity extends to a deep respect for all cultures and student needs. By creating opportunities to celebrate other cultures within the school, he not only enriches the learning environment, but also helps students and staff feel a stronger sense of belonging. This intentional effort to build a diverse and inclusive staff and community is a powerful example of his dedication to equity and action. Finally, through these contributions, Mr. Jason Lambert has created a workspace where staff and students feel safe, valued, and empowered. His leadership exemplifies the principles of collaboration and equity, making Newington Public Schools truly a great place to teach and learn. Congratulations, Mr. Lambert.
Thank you. Thank you.
Deb wants a little quick pic.
Quick.
A photo op for the update.
Wow, now I know how the outstanding students of the month is.
Thank
All right, thank you very much.
Would you like to say anything?
Yeah.
I'm usually not short of words, but I am left speechless by this. I would like to thank the Martin Kellogg staff. I have been at Martin Kellogg Middle School for the better part of 20 years, and there's a reason for that. The dedication in the staff, they're a pleasure to work with. They do well by kids. They show up every day. They don't stop relearning and growing as consummate professionals. And I thank them very much. On my professional growth end, I'd like to thank my colleagues, my administrative colleagues, my central office leadership. I'd like to thank especially Dan Dias and Marco Cirillo. I think they paved the way for some of the great work that we've been able to emulate at Martin Kellogg, and I thank for that. And look forward to continue great work with a great set of leaders and educators in the Newington Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any board member comments? Mr. Holleran?
Mr. Lambert, thank you very much for doing what I assume you think is just doing your job. But the best solutions to the most difficult problems arise from a course from a diverse community. So I don't think it's just the right thing to do. I think it's a strategic and smart thing to do. And by creating a sense of equity, that community feels like every one of their ideas has equal weight. So everybody is brave. You don't even need to be brave. You just feel comfortable expressing your ideas, putting it all into that pot, and then finding the right way forward. So I would say that this award goes beyond you being a hero. I believe for every student in your school, you are a role model. And that is something that goes well beyond a plaque or an award. Thank you. I sincerely speak for the board when we say thank you very much.
Ms. Weaver?
See, this is why we switch off and off, because you really, that was good. That was good. I always, I feel like we've given a lot of awards because you're just amazing and over the years. But I always usually say how amazing you were for being my principal and my sister's principal, and the experience I had at Martin Kellogg as a student. But I think what's really great is always hearing your staff and hearing the culture that is created. These are my favorite awards because they are staff to staff and admiration. I think that really just embodies what we love to see, is that this is clearly a really fun bunch. But to hear it from all levels and to hear what happens in the day-to-day of the schools within the staff, because that translates to our student experience as well. So I'm not even shocked by any of those words, but it's always good to hear that this many years on for both of us, how amazing of a culture Martin Kellogg is because of your leadership. So obviously you're an everyday hero. We already knew this, but I'm glad we can be able to have those words memorialized in a way that you can see that it's not just the students that feel that, it's the staff and everyone here. And I know that radiates throughout the district. So thank you for what you do every day. Congratulations.
Ms. Beatrice?
Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. And this award is well deserved. I'm a mom of a Martin Kellogg family, so you've been a part of our family story for a long period of time, not quite 20 years, but getting close to that. When I hear the words from your colleagues, respect, equity, and empowerment are the words that I keep hearing over and over and over again. And we talk about what it's like to be a good role model for our students. But when we empower the people that we work with, we're creating new generations of leaders. And sooner or later, our kids are going to have to go out in the real world themselves, and they're going to see by your example and the example of your colleagues what it means to be a leader in their own lives, and whether that's work, family, community service. But these are the seeds that we plant to have them grow into really great members of our community going forward. So these are such important examples to set during their formative years, and those are the lessons that they'll take with them. So thank you so much for being such a strong piece of that.
Mr. Sharma?
Also, Mr. Lambert, I mean, both my kids, they both went to your school. They're both your students. And one of them, my daughter now, she is a teacher, English teacher. So, so thank you for everything you do. And then thank you for going above and beyond. So I appreciate what you do. Thank you so much.
Mr. Lambert? Also, I'm a Martin Kellogg family. But I just want to point out that this nomination was from the new library media specialist who's only been in district for a short period of time, and for her to write those words and really just kind of share what, her and the rest of the staff are feeling. I think it really is very telling of how, someone new to the Martin Kellogg family and is, expressing these and seeing it almost immediately. So thank you. And then also appreciate you mentioning the collaboration between Wallace and the, the district as a whole. And I think that really is just important to point out the teamwork and, you definitely deserve everything, but, we're all NPS and doing all the great work together, but congratulations for being recognized, and you do have a very strong family over at Kellogg. We love it. All right, thank you. Yeah, Ms. Weaver, would you please, we're gonna, just for consideration of everyone around the table, we're gonna amend our agenda just to move the presentation of the budget up, and we'll handle the policies later. So,
Not like I'm
Ms. Weaver.
offended as policy chair.
It's fine.
This pains me. All right. I'll move that the Newington Board of Education amend the agenda to move new business item D4, presentation of Superintendent of Schools 2026-2027 budget to the Board of Education to the first new business item and continue with the policy items after the presentation.
Second.
I think that was a tie.
Right, that was dead on. Give it to Tim.
Okay, let's turn it in. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? We have a second. All in favor, aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. All right, Dr. Brummett.
It's all me now. I would also, there are numerous administrators online as well that I just want to acknowledge. Jim Marciano, principal of Ruth Chafee, Kevin Durant, principal of E. Green, Arlene Torres Ruiz, principal of Patterson. I'm seeing names here. Is Amanda Miseron, acting principal of Kellogg. I see Danielle Singleton, assistant director of special education. Looks like Alex Heslin is also on, assistant director of special education. I think Jay Salerno, my right-hand tech gentleman, and Jason Smith, principal of Anna Reynolds, and Jason Plum, director of facilities. And my two interns are on there as well, Terry Turcott and Meg Hamlin. Okay, I think that covers everybody. All righty, and I'm glad that we could move the presentation front and center here. So I want to start off by thanking some of the staff around the table. In addition to all the administrators that you see here this evening, everyone had a role in this budget, which began back in September, basically. And, but around the table, we have Lynn Bover, Kristen Freeman, and Bev Lawrence is actually in the peanut gallery. But she's had, and Marilyn Julioso was also in the peanut gallery. All of these, together with Steve Reese, who's not here this evening, helped put together all of the data regarding this budget and coalescing it and making some 11th hour changes. In fact, Karen Sarah, our Assistant Director of Finance, had such a busy day. She's home with a migraine after this budget. So we gave her a hall pass tonight, but she's been an integral in getting this all put together. And I'm always worried if I forget anyone to thank, but I think that's everybody. So this is a compilation of all of those efforts. Anything that you see in the budget tonight aligns tightly to our mission and vision of the district, that we are here to make sure our kids are equipped with the skills and knowledge to become contributing members of our society, both here in Newington and hopefully globally. And it's our mission that our students are engaged learners who are empowered to learn well and choose what they learn about, and also become very collaborative citizens at part of our community. So all of that is very important, and that will be reflected in the budget this evening. Our portrait of a graduate has been a standing document now for a number of years, but it's very important to us that when our kids leave us, they are outstanding communicators, because we all know how important that is to get along in the world using good written and oral expression and having collaborative communication. Also being good citizens of the world, and you'll see that in a lot of our kids' accomplishments, at how active they are in the community, and thinkers. We want kids to be able to think on their feet, to really look deeply at things. I know the board has seen many presentations where our kids are demonstrating what thinking is all about. It's not just memorizing things, it's about deeply getting into the work that they're tackling day in and day out. We have so much to be proud of, and I just wanted to start off with some notable achievements and accomplishments, so the folks around the table and our community at large knows that their tax dollars are going and doing good work in the community and in our school district. We have had a grant-funded mental health counselor at the high school for the last 3 years, and that's been highly successful. Unfortunately, that grant has now expired, so that position is moving into the operating budget. But I want to show you the most powerful data about that position. Since the grant came into effect in 2023-24, we've gone down from 17 students getting expelled for drugs to 1 to 2 per year now. And that's a startling improvement. And why is that? Because this individual has the skills to work with our kids, retrain them about the dangers of drug use, maybe get to some root causes and hook them up with services. She also does do a lot of work in the mental health arena with our kids, getting them aware. And the board has certainly heard around this table many times of our student representatives singing her praises and the many, many things that she does, bringing in guest speakers. We had an everyday hero who was related to her program. So that position is in the budget this evening because the grant simply has been sunsetted. We have college courses. That list continues to grow every year. Seth Korn is here. He oversees that. Next year, we'll have 40 courses at the high school that are college credit bearing. We are at the top of the state for that. John Wallace began its first bilingual program this year. It is open to both John Wallace and Martin Kellogg students, but it is because we have a critical mass of kids at that level who are Spanish speakers and need that type of instruction as a state mandate. We started off our year strong and recruited and hired 29 new educators. Prior to the start of the school year, not every district can say that. A lot of districts still have vacancies, and we are strongly and fully staffed. We have our educational technology department that I referenced Jay Salerno earlier. We are at the cutting edge of artificial intelligence here in Newington. We've been acknowledged for it. And we are teaching our teachers about how to use it responsibly, and our students for that matter. We take it seriously that there are pitfalls in it, but nevertheless, it's going strong here in Newington. Our CTE department is also overseen by Jay Salerno, and he does a lot of work with those teachers to make sure that they are not just teaching courses, but getting kids ready to launch into careers. We're constantly looking at different ways to provide pathways for kids. We're working right now with a couple of agencies and actually eventually Miguel Cardona to look at how do you bring more credentialing to kids who may not go right into college, but might need some certificates to get launched in the right way. Our special ed team does a fabulous job of containing costs, and you'll hear more about that later. But this year, we received a seed grant, and that grant was used to fund a program at Ruth Chafee for students who had pretty significant needs. And the importance of that is that if we had not done that program or created that program under the direction of Marilena and her team, we probably would have had 9 kids outplaced to the tune of well over $1 million. So that grant was $185,000. It funded a teacher, a para, and an RBT, a registered behavior technician. So very good cost saving and effective way to use the resources. We've had a lot of award winners this year. I think some of you are familiar with many of them, but Marco Trillo was our Assistant Principal of the Year, Tara Tigno High School Principal of the Year, Mr. Freese is CASPA Personnel Administrator of the Year. Antoinette Serrano was our Teacher of the Year, but she was also a top 4 finalist in the state. 3 of our elementary schools, Reynolds, Chafee, and Green, were named schools of distinction for their students' achievement. We have been consistently recognized by NAM as Best Community for Music Students, and we were recently recognized as a Google for Education Reference District, which means that we are exemplary in our work with the Google Workspace. And we can't leave out our students and all that they have accomplished. Our high school students currently rank 17 out of 108 school districts with high schools for getting the seal of biliteracy. 51 students already in the class of 2026 will have that seal of biliteracy, and 4 of those students will have it in 2 languages. So we are really cultivating a love of a language, and Rosanna Vassal and her teachers have done a fabulous job with that. Class of 2025 earned just under 3,000 college credits, which saved our taxpayers, our parents, over $1 million in tuition. We've had some really great leaps this year and some student achievement. Our grade 5 students had the highest percentage of making goal in the SBOC since 2018. We've had the highest percentage of kids in grade 8 achieving goal in ELA and math since 2018, and in science since 2019, and that was the first year of the test. So great accomplishments in grade 8. Our SAT scores exceeded the targeted mean growth in both ER, English reading, writing, and math. And we are above the state in our scores. In AP, we've had tremendous success there. 37% of our kids graduated with a score of 3 or higher on at least one AP exam. And 2025 was the highest participation rate and percentage of students earning a 3 or higher on an AP exam. And most equally important, and something that we've been striving for quite a while now, and we're making some inroads, are some of the gap closures that we experienced. Our students in grade 7 and 8, we closed gaps in math and some of our marginalized groups, our Black students, our multi-race students, and kids who are eligible for free and reduced lunch. We also had gap closures in our SBA ELA gap, both our Black, Hispanic, multi-race students with disabilities and free and reduced lunch students saw some gap closures. And lastly, our NGSS, that's our science state mandated test, saw some really significant gains in our Black population, Hispanic, multi-race, and students with disabilities, as well as students who qualify for free or reduced lunch. So these are groups that typically are a bit behind other groups in our district, and we're trying to get them to where all our students are achieving at high levels. Every year I show this because I want all of our stakeholders to see the dramatic changes in our district. Even, you can look, I'm not going to read this chart to everybody. Many of you have seen it before, but even from 2025 to 2026, you see our special ed rates have gone up almost 2%. And our kids have, developed more needs. Our other areas of challenge are pretty flat that way, but I want people to know that special ed rates are going up throughout the entire state. We're right around the state average, but nevertheless, it really does create some funding challenges because students with special needs require unique and different types of programs that typically are fairly costly. But we continue to be very diverse with our ML students. We're at the 9% level, and that continues to be right around that rate, and it probably will continue to grow. We also are diverse in our cultures and our ethnicities in the district. I'll let you read through that, but we have a very heavy Hispanic population here in Newington, and a lot of those students come to us with multilingual needs, and we have to provide those services. In one of my slides tonight, you'll see how those costs have escalated over the last decade. However, I believe it's a positive because having a unique school environment makes us that much more enriched. Today, I went over to Anna Reynolds and had a Ramadan lunch treat. And we see a lot of our staff and students comfortable bringing forward their cultures, which this is what we want to create, is that type of environment. Oops, I was going to surprise you, but all right, too late. These are our top 10 languages. I wonder if that surprises anyone around the table about how heavily diverse our population is with regard to language proficiency. We have a system in our district called Parent Square. Everything we send out is translated into all those languages, actually more. Those are just our top 10. But you can appreciate that with that level of diversity, we have to be very conscious of what we do to bring in our families into the fold, making sure their needs are met, and all of these children have unique needs. And that's something that we pride ourselves in on, looking at how to best reach our learners. So the goal of the budget is pretty simple, in my opinion. I want to continue all the current programs. I don't want to lose any programs. We want to improve our recruitment and retention of our paras, tutors, and permanent building subs, also referred to as our support staff. We would like adequate funding for the bus replacement cycle. We want to support student mental health needs and special ed mandates. We want to make sure that our teachers feel that like they have job security. The market right now for teachers is very challenging, and the last thing we want to do is, just discourage our teachers by having layoffs, and then that doesn't bode well for our retention efforts. We also want to continue to leverage grants to offset budgets. We have quite a bit of grant money that keeps our budget lower than it would be without it. We actively write grants. I finished writing a grant today. So we are always seeking ways to offset the operating budget. Very few really new positions here in the budget. We have 4 new courses, 2 of which add to our ECE. We have Introduction to Genocide Studies and American Popular Music. That is going to be a really cool course. We have a new teacher at the high school in our choral and music department, and he's able to teach that course. So that's a new addition for us. Cosmology, something about the study of space, and Italian for bilingual students. That is extraordinarily exciting that students can complete 2 years of Italian in 1 year. It's a really unique concept developed by our World Language Department, and I think it's just another way to get our students who speak different languages to elevate and earn additional credits. I already mentioned that we would like the bus replacement cycle to be funded. We also have parking lot improvements needed at Chafee. We also need a partial roof replacement at Patterson. And I would like to continue that SEL and mental health counselor that I referenced earlier, because the grant funding has expired. We also do need 1 new OT or occupational therapist due to diverse and increasingly significant student needs. And as mentioned earlier, we want to provide benefits to our support staff. We are the only district in the state of Connecticut whose support staff do not have benefits. Here are some funding assumptions that are already in the budget. We have used a host of grants to offset $2.7 million in the budget. We have the MOU that we've worked on with the town. We're going to use that MOU to transfer $800,000 from, it goes from the capital budget to the non-lapsing fund and then back into the operating budget, $800,000, which is an appropriate use of it because the money that seeds the capital budget is actually the money we get from open choice. So we're just trying to circle it back to where it belongs. This year, we are planning on relying on the non-lapsing fund, which includes the $800,000 above as an offset. And right now, while we've requested 4% of our open choice students to be seated in the district, we want to be conservative about what we can expect from that, which is a 3% reimbursement. This year, we were like 3.78, and unfortunately, they weren't willing to round it up, though I tried. So that's about 1.2 million. Unfortunately, our administrators around the room and teachers have what we allow for is called a plans proposal process, where they can come to a planning committee meeting and propose new positions. While all of them propose many worthwhile positions, we simply could not add those to the budget, given just the, and I'll show that to you in a minute, the need to just fund our contracts. That took a big chunk of money right there. But these are positions we would have liked to have added if the budget had more room. But, you know, we're going to have to do without these positions right now and kind of make do with existing staff. I think I mentioned earlier that we have certainly seen cost escalation over the years. And I think it's really relevant for the stakeholders around this table to see that special education costs since 2018 have gone up 77%. And I'll tell you, I serve on a special ed task force at the state, and the identification rates have gone up more than 50%. Like I said, you know, 5 years ago, identification rates were more in the 15% range. Now they're 18, 19%. Some of our more urban districts have 20, 25% special ed identification rates. It's just, we're doing a task force to look at that. What are the root causes of that? But you can imagine all of that plays into much higher costs. And the districts, those around the table, representing citizens around the table, are the ones that bear that cost. Our IDEA grant is, we did get news that that will be funded this year, but it certainly has gone up about 30% in the last 10 years. But when special ed costs have gone up 77%, you can see that disconnect. Our EL programs that I mentioned earlier, back in 2018, we were only spending about $354,000. This year, we spent $875,000, or 147% increase. And again, these are mandated services. We don't get to choose whether or not we do this. ECS money has gone up about 30% since 2018. I did hear today the governor's budget is going to flat fund it. I've already voiced my concern about that to our legislators, because that's just not appropriate. Educational costs go up every year. Now, this money goes to the town, but I advocate for it because that money helps offset educational costs. So I'm on that team of, we've got to all advocate for additional resources from the state. You know, for your reading pleasure, I linked into this thing. You've all heard the term unfunded mandates. And I was on a panel recently where we were asked to put out, what do we want in this year's budget from the or legislative session? And I chirped in and said, no unfunded mandates, please, among other things, but I wanted, that relates to this slide. There is a 67-page document linked in this PowerPoint, which I will send out to everyone here tonight, of all the unfunded mandates over the last, I think it's 20 years. This was put together by Shipman and Goodwin, and I'm not going to read through it. You'd lose your mind if I go through all of these, but every one of these is something that a district has to do in order to be compliant with a law or a policy, and there's absolutely no money associated with it. And that's just something that happens to us all the time. And, you know, many of these you don't necessarily think are a bad idea, but it's a bad idea that we don't get money. So that's our disconnect. We're having to advocate and do what we're supposed to do. I mean, an example of that this year was the school climate legislation. We've done it. We've embraced it. Dr. Harrison spoke of it at the last board meeting, but it's put a lot of burden on our staff, and there was absolutely no money for it. And that's just one example. The chart that I had on the board before we went over there, this shows you some of the ones that are still in play this year right now. I don't know if more are coming our way. That's another reality that we face. We're drawing up our budget today, and the legislative session is still going on. And I saw some of the possibilities. This is something we don't even know that could hit us for the rest of the school year that we have to be responsible for July 1. So these are huge stressors on school systems. Conservatively, just some of the ones that are still impacting us is close to $400,000 of unfunded mandates. So currently, or this is our first sneak preview of our budget. my request or my ask this year is for 96,633,771. And this is, I'm kind of bifurcating the budget. This is the slice of the budget that does not include para benefits. This is simply keeping all our programs going, dealing with inflation, dealing with contractual obligations, and those few positions I mentioned, the OT and the continuing the mental health counselor. That's it. That's what this is. And I'll explain it in more detail down the road, but you can clearly see by this pie chart that salaries are the biggest chunk of our budget, followed by benefits. And unfortunately, this year, and the town's aware of this because we all talk to the same agent of record, our benefits are up 17, almost 18%. And that ebbs and flows. Some years you have great experiences, and we've had a lot of that here, but not this year. Special ed, not counting salaries, is about 6% of the budget. All other would be curriculum supplies, different things that we need to fund, sporting and all of those important but ancillary services. Transportation, this just refers to the operations of transportation, not the staffing. And operational expenses refers to our facilities, what it costs to keep our buildings running smoothly. For example, this week, there's been a few burst pipes due to this very cold weather we're having. Those are things you have to deal with all the time, different things that keep the cost of running a school system, up there. This would be the budget if we add para benefits. To add para, and I keep using the word para, but it's also support staff, tutors, permanent building subs, that ask would be 98,313,000. You can see the pie just jumped up here, adding another percentage to the part of our budget that covers benefits. And I want to be clear, the benefits we're offering, if this were to go through, are not Cadillac. They are single person coverage with a deductible like most folks have, a cost share that's reasonable. But if paras want to have a family plan or a spouse plan, they would have to pay out of their pockets for that. This is just really para or employee coverage only. And even at that, it was about 1.68 million, but per person wasn't it about 15,000? And we spent about a good hour with our agent of record about crafting a plan that was reasonable, because it would be very insulting to put forward a plan in which we have a para that's got to pay $8,000 out of pocket on a $25,000 a year salary. So it's not doing that. So, Steve Farisi and Talisha Foy did an exhaustive study recently to look at where we stand with para benefits. And it's frankly, folks, it's killing us. Folks around the table or in our guest area are bearing the brunt of day after day of not having enough paras. It affects our morale, it affects our learning, it affects student success. I was just talking to a principal today, and he said certain students' para is absent or is out sick, and we don't have subs. So he was declining because of that. So it has a lot of different impact on our culture and climate. The para educators really need to be there for our students. That's currently around 144 folks in the district, approximately 20. And why I say approximately is because every day it's a different head count because they resign frequently. We have about 30 building subs, 22 registered behavior technicians, and a handful of job coaches, and a workforce development specialist and occupational therapy assistants. These are the folks that would be impacted by this. It's extremely challenging to retain these staff without benefits. Look at our unpleasant statistics. Newington currently has, well, this was as of December 5th, we had 25 vacancies. If you look at our neighbors, we clearly were at the front of the pile for something that we don't want to be in the front of the line for.
Go ahead, Ms. Weaver.
And then that's not to say that they have the same amount or different amounts of paras than us.
Like
Some would be
or
more, yeah, some would be bigger districts, some would be smaller. But they all, I will tell you, all the other districts referenced here have benefits. That's why I'm assuming, my bet is, and the data will show that that's why they have fewer vacancies than us. I've already mentioned the impact not only on our students, on our staff. We have about a 50% turnover rate. On any given day, I get a letter from HCD, oh, we just hired Para Jones. We just got a resignation from Para Smith. Yeah, really on the same day. When you look at the statistics, we are not unionized, whereas the region, typically about 91% of our neighbors are unionized. Our pay is a little bit lower. We don't have any insurance coverage right now. Average in the region is about a 19% cost share, which is what the plan that we are recommending has. We also don't have any paid holidays, whereas typically in the region, folks have about 7.9. Our support staff does have some paid sick days, and they do have something called a time work bonus. If they have good attendance, they get a bonus at the end of the year. So again, I don't want to, hit this home too hard, but I think it's clear that we are spending less on our paraprofessional support staff than anyone in this vicinity. And we did survey current support staff, and we've had various conversations with them over the years. We project somewhere between 70 or 80% of our current support staff would take benefits if they were offered. Some don't need them for various reasons. And some want it for just themselves and some want it for their family. I will tell you, the plan would only offer it for the employee. So our staff just basically say, I've got to work 2-3 jobs. Having the benefits would make, me want to stay, would make my life a little easier. And there is a possibility of state subsidies for some of the cost share, but we're not sure about that yet. But a lot of our staff clearly have said to us over the years that this is something they want. And it will improve our retention and our competitiveness and our human impact on our staff. So it is something that's very important. I thank Steve and Talisha for gathering all this data. And I also thank Town Manager Atchell. He and I spoke about 2 months ago where I needed to get his approval to at least bring this forward because in Newington, our support staff are officially town employees. So I can't unilaterally just add or try to add health benefits without the consent of the town. Obviously, the next level of work is the cost of it. This is just a pie chart about special ed. It is a very expensive part of our budget, though our special ed department works tirelessly to keep our expenses down. But our all-in total cost for special ed is about 20 million. This year we saw a decrease in our outplacements, which are, for those of you that don't know, when a student is not, if their needs are not met here, they have to go to a specialized school. Average cost of a specialized school in the state of Connecticut is well over $100,000. You could send your child to Harvard at a cheaper cost than you could send them to an outplacement. So it is something that we try to avoid, and the way to avoid that is to create high quality in-district programs, which our department has been working on tirelessly. But this is, again, most of the special ed costs are in salaries. We do have to have specialized supplies for our students, different materials, different equipment that they need. Outplacements do still cost about $2 million, but I'll tell you, compared to some of our neighbors, that's pretty as on the lower end. And providing, outplacement services. We are responsible for providing special ed costs for any of our kids who are in magnet schools. They bill us for their special ed costs. And sometimes when kids are in outplacements, they are billed for even more services, such as testing or specialized assessments. Here's a summary of our contractual obligations this year. We have a variety of contracts here in Newington. We kind of have a lot of different ones here. We're based on our this new business platform that we're working on. She calls us a very complex payroll system. But that being said, this is kind of a summary of each impact of each bargaining unit, and it's all contractually driven. NTA is our teacher union. and they are our biggest group. So their impact this year, they raised about 2.2 million. AFSME includes our secretaries, custodial staff. That contract is negotiated by the town, though we have input into that. That contract's about a 3% this year. NASA is our administrative union. When we did that negotiation this year, they were one of the lowest paid groups in this neck of the woods. So we right-sized that this year for them. And it's a small group, so the impact is 206,000. Nurses, they're getting a 4% raise. CNIA is a very small group of non-certified. They are certified, actually. They're 085. Very small group of 4 people, including our assistant business manager, our director of security. The AT salaries are set by the town manager. We were given the figure of 3%. We've allocated 4% for paras. Other non-bargaining, there's a small group of folks that don't fit into any of those categories. They get a 3% raise. So the net cost of all of those increases is $3.3 million. But I'm now going to turn it over to our CFO to explain the impact of our historical reliance on the non-lapsing fund and kind of how we're trying to get away from that, if we can.
Is actually increasing by $5,537,265. The change comes from 2 main sources: the contractual raises for staff and a funding correction, so to speak. The 3.37 million is due to contractual commitments, as Dr. Brummett just said, our teachers and our staff and our operations team. The 2.16 million correction, it's not new spending, but it's a shift in how we have to fund our current staff due to last year using 3.164040 in one-time savings from the non-lapsing fund to fund our positions. So this year we'll be spending 1 million out of that fund, which will result in, can you switch to the next slide, please? Thank you. Thank you. It just shows you that actually when we had our budget this year, it's not really 91,613,371 because we use that non-lapsing fund. We actually still have to pay for all 94,777,411. I know it's really hard to wrap your head around this, but it's the result of the existing positions moving back into the permanent budget rather than utilizing one-time savings from the non-lapsing fund. Relying on one-time savings for permanent employees, it's called a funding cliff. And if you remember back when all of the ARPA money was around, they kept saying, don't put any positions in there, use it for one-time expenses, not people. And by using it for people, we created a funding cliff. And hopefully I've explained that to everyone well.
Okay.
Thank you.
So anticipating a lesser reliance this year on the non-lapsing fund. I won't get into a lot of details on this slide. We entered into an MOU with the town. It was a reoccurring MOU that we review every year. This year we have to review it again on September 1st. And it allows us to take money from the capital fund, which is largely funded by open choice dollars, and route it through the non-lapsing fund and then back to the budget. So the $1 million that Lynn and I have spoken about is actually largely coming from open choice reimbursement. And the other 200,000 would be what we anticipate will be left over from this year's non-lapsing fund resources. So to be clear, we're planning on relying on $1 million of non-lapsing fund. This would be money that we would put as an offset to our budget from the non-lapsing fund. And it equates to about 1.03%, or if you include the para benefits, it's about 1.02%. This is just a snapshot of how we use our grants. We use a lot of our grant money to pay for teachers, and these are reoccurring grants for the most part. The one that wasn't is the one the mental health grant that expired, and that was from the ESSER era. The rest of these are IDEA or choice grants, title grants. Those are things that we get annually, so they're reliable grants, but it's $2.7 million. It's very helpful as an offset. So here's some pending issues to keep in mind. Right now, we've only projected to use $1 million of the non-lapsing fund. Other possibilities, if someone were to leave the district, we always assess whether we would need to replace them. That's our best way to lower costs versus a layoff. So we always watch out for that. We have ongoing health insurance discussions. The one that was held a couple days ago did not yield any changes. But hopefully in the spring we'll get some better news. But tonight I have to share, with the stakeholders, here's what we need right now, barring any lucky breaks, so to speak. And then if the para and support staff insurance is funded, we do think we could reduce the time work bonus benefit, because if you take the health insurance benefits, you would forego the time work bonus benefit. We also have added a lot of building subs because frankly, sometimes our building subs operate as paras. We think we might be able to reduce some of our building subs if we were properly staffed with paras. Right now, the Nor'easter Academy grant is not in the budget. A part of it is, but right now we are waiting to hear word of a $100,000 grant that I literally just finished writing today. We won't know about that till the spring or late or early summer. It's a highly valuable program, but right now I only put in the portion that the board had been paying this year. Here's a real kind of cost comparison. That's a history of our budget increases over the last 5 or 6 years. Just to be super clear, my proposed budget without para benefits is $96,633,711, or a $5 million increase, which equates to 5.48%. If we were to add the para benefits, that does change that increase to 6.7 million, or a 7.31% increase. So I'm comparing the two because the 5.48 is really comparable to what we asked for last year, but the para benefits really add another 1.5% to our ask. Here's our budget history. You can see in recent years, we have averaged more in that 5% range, which has helped us to a certain degree keep up with inflation and with the town's support. Earlier budget increases were quite a bit lower, and sometimes you have to pay a little catch up when you've had low budget increases over that time. But our average over the last 9 years is about a 3.02% increase over the last 9 years. So basically, we started off with, when everyone threw everything in that they wanted in the budget, it would have been a $101 million budget. And I knew that wasn't going to work out at all. But we went through some very serious analysis and looked at all the pieces that were in there and immediately cut almost $3 million out of the budget. So I started off with my team at about a 7.24% increase. Then through the hard work of folks around the table and consultation with our administrative team, we were able to reduce the budget by another 1.4 million, which brought us to 5.68%. And then most recently, we realized that the budget was missing one of the grants. So we put that in there. That's actually seed grant year 2. That's $185,000, which brought our ask down to 5.48. So we dropped down more than 2%, or just about 2% from start to finish. But as I've mentioned earlier, the addition of the para tutor benefits is a $1.6 million ask. So that brings us back up to 7.31%. So our continuing as is 5.48%. Continuing with those benefits that I've talked about this evening is 7.31%. I'm going to briefly cover the capital budget. We sent that along to the town in December. The board approved it in December as well. So the town should have this, and I'm not going to go through it page by page, but the highlights are going to be, and I'll blow them up because the print is small, is our board CIP, which covers a variety of issues. We do have some laboratories district-wide that need improvement, largely at Kellogg. HVAC is something that we have to do as that unfunded mandate. Every year we try to improve our district-wide safety and security. We're having an ongoing radio replacement program right now, as well as cameras. Our district-wide technology is funded through this grant at 782, and that includes laptops. Every year we refresh kindergarten, grade 5 and grade 9. So when kids start their new buildings, they get a new laptop. And we always are refreshing employee laptops. This year, there'll be a lot of secretarial laptops refreshed. Some of our monitors need to be refreshed every year. When I say refresh, it means they're starting to basically fade or fail. And we have to make sure that, I can tell you when a monitor is not working in a classroom, a display, like what's behind me, it really does throw the day into a tailspin. So we try to make sure our technology is in sound operating condition. And then we have a maintenance vehicle for $70,000. That is a truck that's, I think, has 190,000 miles on it and is probably long overdue for replacement. The other bigger portion of this is the pay-as-you-go plan. And that is where we put in our requests for some major capital improvements as well as the buses. So the Ruth Chafee parking lot has a lot of concerns with pits and holes in it that are unsafe. So that's a recommendation for next year. John Patterson needs a partial roof replacement. And the bus cycle is one that's the biggest ask at $1.5 million. I'm going to get into a little more detail about that in just a moment, but those are the major capital asks. Okay, back to here. The bus replacement cycle is one of those situations where, and I know the board and the town have seen a lot of presentations about this, and we've got our Garfield Street paved. Thank you very much. It's going to keep our buses in good working condition. We spent time last year showing both the board and the town about the wear and tear on buses when there's gravel lots versus paved lots. So we're in good shape there. Where we're in less good shape is our bus replacement cycle. We haven't had a lot of funding for buses in recent years, and we've got a lot of vehicles right now that are beyond their useful life. We've made the decision to have an 11-year replacement cycle. We have the industry standard, usually for districts that have DATCO or first student, is more of an 8 to 9 year replacement cycle. We go longer than that. We take really good care of our buses. But when they're ready to go, you know, they start to need to be replaced. So this year we have a large number of buses, 7 that need to be replaced. Bus prices are not going down. They've gone up ever since COVID, and they have stayed up. In fact, the lag time on a bus order is up to 2 years. But bus prices are not going to go down. That smaller line graph there is not cheaper buses, it's smaller buses, vans. No coupons available. So buses are very expensive. Oops, excuse me. I will tell you, I know it comes up year to year. Why don't we just use DATCO for city? I was at a superintendent's meeting a couple days ago, and one of the superintendents around the table said, "Does Dean Barnes still work for you?" I said, "Yep, he does." "Well, he used to work at my bus yard, and we sure miss him." And they're all having, anyone around that table, except for me, described outrageous bus increases, terrible service, and wishing they had their own bus yard. And they were like, our bus costs are going up 15-20% a year, and the service isn't even worth it. So we have a wide variety of buses. We have 71, and no, they're not all on the road at the same time. We do have to keep a spare fleet, because if a bus breaks down, we got to send another bus out to get it. We've all seen those stories of people running past stop signs and crashing into buses. Luckily, our buses are in very strong condition, but sometimes they are damaged or just need maintenance. So the vast majority of our fleet is full-size buses, but we also have athletic buses, vans, passenger buses, so a wide range of buses. Here's the issue. We have about 31 buses that are going to reach the end of their useful life over the next 4 years. And last year, we only bought one bus. So we are way behind on our purchasing of buses. and we have what's called a bubble. And what we're trying to do is flatten out the bubble. So what we're recommending is that funding of $1.5 million would flatten out the bubble because we'd be able to spend money gradually over time versus having a 1-year huge outlay. Now, arguably $1.5 million is a huge outlay. It would be worse if we didn't try to flatten out this bubble. So this is just a projection of trying to flatten out how we fund buses. If we don't go that route, you can see that our bus spending will be kind of all over the map in different amounts. When, like this year, we would normally have to spend 1.6 million. We're actually recommending less than that, but it's a way of spreading out the bubble and having these costs kind of gradually spread out over time. It's still not a small number, but it could be a lot bigger if we just waited it out and 1 year bought 3 buses and the next year bought 10 buses. So historically, the bus funding hasn't been strong. We've, when I arrived here, there was something called a health benefit credit, which really was used to buy buses. It no longer exists. The health benefit credit is something that insurance companies gave to district or they gave to communities as any type of residual of money that was budgeted for, but was not used. So they would credit back districts or towns. That money dried up because then the credits were applied differently. They were applied to kind of lower the cost of the entire insurance plan. So I know Newington relied on that bus credit or the health credit for years to fund buses. That dried up several years ago. And really, we've only had some bus funding in 22, 23, 23, 24, and a little bit last year. So we've had to just kind of forego a lot of bus expenditures. So strategically, we'd recommend funding that bus replacement cycle to even out funding and hopefully get back into a more routine of having that funding in our budget. We are predicting a 6% increase year to year, but that's kind of, we can't promise you it won't go higher than 6%. That's currently what the industry standard is. So I'll leave questions till the end. I think I'm almost done here. And I already reviewed what was in the tech replacement cycle already, so I won't repeat that. And as I always mention, to be fair, full disclosure, if we do have cuts, every 2.0 FTE is about $100,000 cut. And you don't really get the full benefit of the entire position because these individuals can apply for unemployment. We are, as I mentioned earlier, using $1 million of non-lapsing. If we reduce the budget, we could be looking at higher class sizes, that mental health position that I've talked about, special education services that we have to provide could be compromised. And as I mentioned earlier, when positions aren't filled, school climate and culture is impacted. So, and you've already heard me speak many times about the ongoing para retention challenges. So without that allocation, support staff will not be able to have any insurance. It'll just be unfunded as it has been. So I think these are the next steps in our budget process. The board's got a lot of work to do in the coming couple of weeks. And then the board has to pass the budget by February 25th. I'll go on the road and go into PTOs and faculty meetings. And then Chairman Parati and I will be presenting to the town council on March 10th. I won't go into this much detail that night, but we'll have updates to how the budget has progressed in the in the subsequent month. I will turn it back over to you for questions.
And just before, does everyone know where everyone around the table? Or should we do, everyone's good? Okay, perfect. And yeah, so the town council is here so that you can participate. Just if you want to speak, raise your hand, push your green or your button on the mic. Or yes, otherwise can't hear online. Mr. Holleran.
Yeah, just to add a little context on 2 issues. Dr. Burma had spoken about the bubble with the buses. I think it's kind of important to point out that that's a self-imposed bubble. Initially, when this bus recycle placement program, and correct me if I'm wrong, was developed, it was to try to keep a flat, steady increase of a cycle so we could plan for it. But what has happened, and I don't know if you can get back to the slide, she showed you that bar graph that had kind of the yellow line and the blue lines. One, you go, the one that showed year over year. Yeah, slide 9, maybe. This one. So if you look at the blue line, that's the estimate. So think of that as the need. That was the need to replace the bubbles. But because, and if Dean Barnes was here, you could probably explain it a little better than I. He was asked to, can you stretch it a little further? Can you stretch it a little further? Can you stretch it a little further? So, okay, we won't replace buses this year. Okay, we'll go to an 11-year cycle instead of a 10-year cycle. We'll give you 1 bus instead of 5. So if you look at the blue line, that's the need. The orange line is what we got. So that's what created the bubble. We never kept it flat because the ask was so much lower year after year after year after year. The thing about that is that the buses, they don't stop aging, right? They don't stop getting used. So even if we defer the payment and the replacement, those buses are still aging out. And that puts us into a situation where here we are, we're like, we need 7 buses. What we're trying to do is try to make an investment now so we can get back to something that's, we don't need 7. We need 2 or 3 every single year to keep that going. But that's just kind of like when I say it's a self-imposed budget, hard decisions have to be made. It's easy to be like, okay, well, the bus isn't broken. It can still run. We can use it. But eventually the bill comes due. And that's what's happening. Now we need a lot of buses because they're becoming unsafe. And looking to outsource to DATCO or First Student, nothing against those companies, but it's always going to be more expensive because they're for-profit. They're for-profit companies. They're there to make money. Ours is at cost. So it's always going to be cheaper there, but at the same time, we need to have a reliable fleet. So I just wanted to add some context to that too, because that was really what Lynn had put together was really powerful. I think that graph is to really show, here's the ask, here's the real need, here's what we got year over year. And if you could see, there are some years, there's almost no orange. There's none. And the need doesn't say it's none. It's just that that was a hard budgetary decision that had to be made, but making that repeatedly over and over and over is, I guess the best way to put that is delaying the inevitable. And I think the other thing I wanted to touch about is the para benefits. It's come up a lot. It's one of the things that I'm passionate about because we have rising special education costs throughout the state and in this town. Paras are a huge part of that. They help to answer those needs that we have to do. And in every PTO meeting, every PTA meeting I've been in, every PAC meeting I've been in, every principal I've talked to, every teacher, every parent, and a lot of the students I've talked to, when I asked what is the biggest thing that will help out the community, it's we need paras, we need help. It's literally making it impossible to do our job some days. And we're pulling in people who aren't para educators to do that role because it's needed. And if you look at the end of the day, at the end of that line, who's impacted, it's the student. And it's that student who needs it the most. And these students will bond with the para, they'll attach, and then they're gone in a month. And then there's somebody new. Without that consistency, it's just really trying to get by. It's not what we need. It's an ask, but I think if you ask anybody sitting along that wall, one of the biggest concerns is each and every one of their schools, it's we need to keep our paras. We'll train them and then they'll go because they need health insurance. And what we're not giving them what we really want to, we're giving them what we can. But I think that is probably one of the biggest pain points in our school system now, and it's going to get worse if we don't do something about it. So just wanted, not really a question, just want to add some context.
Thank you, Mr. Halloran. Ms. Weaver?
Well, if we're just going to add more context, then I'll just, but I think one of the important things too, that I've just learned over my time on the board is just the uniqueness of special education in Connecticut versus other states. I don't know if Dr. Burma, you can talk, because I know you've taught in other states, but particularly the overly litigious part of this and how, you know, people ask like, well, why are we doing these extreme outplacements or these kinds of things, but Connecticut has a very hard hurdle for burden of proof. So I think just also contextualizing that and noting, if you have that slide too, of just, I believe it's gone up $4 million in the last year for us. Yeah, it's one of the, or is it, no, yeah, the chart one with the,
Oh, my apologies.
no. Yeah, that one. So the 16 to 20. So that's for our students. So one, could you explain that? And then two, also, I know sometimes there's just misconceptions about like our student makeup and that kind of stuff, but they would be like, oh, we're paying for the kids from Harvard, or we're doing this. Open choice is less than 3% or less than 4% of our students.
Yes.
If we did get the 4% though,
That
it would be $2,000 more a kid
It would be
reimbursement. So that would be nice.
very helpful.
So just if you could explain to why that cost is so much more, I think, than other states.
Well, a couple of reasons. One is, in Connecticut, it's really a lot of the expenses borne on the local communities versus state support. So that is one challenge that Connecticut has. Yes, I've worked in 4 different states, and I've never seen so many lawyers as when I've worked in Connecticut. And that's because one of the reasons for that is what's called the burden of proof, that in Connecticut, if you are dissatisfied with your special ed program, if a parent brings it forward, it's still the burden is on the school district to prove that their program is appropriate, whereas in other states, the folks bringing forward the concern have to prove that the program was insufficient. I've been fighting that fight for years. It's just an unfair way to do business. And we've talked to folks about that. And if you know that you're going to have a litigious issue, many districts are advised to settle because it's cheaper than going to a full hearing and spending tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. So it's any special ed director, and Marilyn and I've had many conversations in this regard, you don't want to do that. You want to do what you think is in the best interest of the student, but sometimes you are advised to take the route where you're going to spend less of the taxpayers' money. So those are all issues that get into why special ed is such a high cost. There are other things that the task force that I'm serving on are uncovering, but the results are not released yet. But I think
Caps on certain services.
Yes,
Yeah.
so we'll share that soon, but those are some pivotal issues that will come out of that report, among others.
Thank you.
Mr. Plord?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'll just speak for myself, but I think I speak for all of us on council that we are very grateful for the opportunity to be here as a guest at your meeting, as we did last year, to hear directly from you about your budgetary needs and dig into the data a little bit more around what's driving a lot of those needs. Obviously, at the point at which we receive the budget, the board has already done a lot of the work of making really hard decisions about priorities, policy questions, where the data is leading you long-term, et cetera. But it is really helpful for us to know what's informing those questions and the answers to those questions before the budget gets to us. So we're all very appreciative for that. I just have 2 specific questions. One is first about the paraeducator benefits. Obviously, you talked about the kind of multifold reasons for pursuing this, the strategic benefit, obviously the human benefit, the competitiveness. I know you also demonstrated that the pay rates for our paraeducators, the hourly pay rates, are generally lower than surrounding communities. Obviously, the benefit of having benefits versus, just an increase in pay, it's not nearly commensurate. But can you just speak to a little bit about maybe some review that the district has done about what increasing the hourly rate might do in terms of attracting paraeducators? That's the first question. The second question is about the capital budget and the bus replacement program. I mean, obviously the request is significant. 31 buses, though, potentially coming offline over the next 4 years. I wonder if that amount requested in CIP is nearly enough this year or in the years afterwards. So can you just talk a little bit about, in terms of flattening that bubble, why it's that number this year and not something much higher, and what you anticipate the number would be over those next 3 years to, again, continue to flatten that bubble? Thank you.
So for the first question relative to para hourly rates, we are on the lower end, but what we've done, we did give paras a $1 raise this year after the school year started to try to retain, and it didn't make a big difference. When we have exit interviews, inevitably they say, I'm leaving to go to a job that has benefits. So while our pay is a little bit lower, that doesn't seem to be the pivotal issue. It really, like I said, at the exit interview or survey is what they're reporting is the lack of benefits. Relative to the bus bubble issue, I'm going to ask Lynn to help me explain that in a little bit clearer way, because she's one of the authors of the bus flattening of the bubble. So let me get that up again. But yes, the goal is to not create a huge, larger than 1.5 million for the town every year. So Lynn, can you address the counselor's question relative to the bubble issue?
What we tried to do with the flattening is the buses cost approximately $157,000 a piece. So we figured if we spread that out over the next 4 years, we could do it. Bless you. We could do that in a much easier way for the town's taxpayers than to hit all of it in 1 or 2 years. You're welcome.
I think it would just require, I guess, some sort of confirmation or like just acknowledgement that it's not just this year, it would be a ongoing amount. And it was, it's there at the bottom of the screen, the totals anticipated out. Go ahead, Ms. Whitmer.
I would just add to, I think the mindset too is to not create another bubble in 11 years. So to not have a spike and to have flattening so that in another decade and a half's time, we aren't experiencing the same situation.
Yeah.
That could be achieved by changing our model from 11 years to 8. It would then help with the flattening so that it would be after 8 years. And then in the next year, it would be after 8 years so that we would be on a cycle. And we don't stop using the vehicles. We turn them into vehicles for athletics. So we actually try to save the town money any way we can.
Mr. Tiniakis had. Unbelievable. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you as well.
Oh, Mike.
Ours just stay on. Yeah, no, I probably. Oh, and thank you very much for your presentation. My questions are in the same realm about the para benefits and the buses. I have 2 questions related to those. When we're looking at the bus plan over a long term, my question is actually about electric buses. What happens in year 2 if there's legislation passed that requires electric buses? And I think ultimately, from an environmental standpoint, that's ultimately where we want to go, but those are considerably more expensive. And if we put together an 11-year plan for conventional buses, at what point do we switch over to electric buses? And how does that come into play? And I really have a question about the para benefits, just sort of a comment, I guess, and maybe to get a sense of it. It seems to me like the para benefits is going to have the most significant impact on our students and our staff. I mean, it's shocking that we're the only district in the region that doesn't have that. So I think, from my standpoint, would you prioritize para benefits over the bus replacement plan?
Boy. That's probably more for a discussion at another time, but obviously para benefits, you see the impact. The bus replacement cycle with regard to the electric buses. Now that year, I've talked to Dean about electric buses endlessly. I don't see how that's feasible in the state of Connecticut right now. With, first of all, the cost, they're double the cost. And second, equally important is infrastructure. There's just no way at the current level of infrastructure that most communities have to plug these buses in and get them charged up. You've seen the clips on YouTube of electric buses catching on fire. They're on the side of the road, stalled out because they ran out of gas or juice. It's still not in my opinion, and not just my opinion, what I've studied about it, not a system that's ready for launch yet. So yes, you're right. That's going to be something else to consider. I think right now they're telling us 2030. I just can't, I don't see it happening. Couple districts thought they were going to get ahead of the game and they bought some electric buses and they're sitting in the yard. They're not working. They have a lot of problems. And, Dean and I talk about it frequently and he keeps his eye on it. We did try to write a grant for one a few years ago just to see how that would fly. We did not get the grant. They were only giving them out to very distressed districts, but they are not widely used yet. And they are a technology that has some challenges. So I can't answer that question other than I'm very cautious that that's technology that the state is ready for.
Thank you.
Dr. Stanley?
Thanks. Yeah, unfortunately, with the electric buses above the Mason-Dixon line, it's like not ideal at the moment, but hopefully technology, there's lots of smart people in the field over time, or global warming. I don't know. I had a question about the cliff and the non-lapsing fund. How long have we been on this cliff? How much percentage-wise do we use every year of this non-lapsing fund to provide salaries?
We have included non-lapsing offsets in the budget for at least 4 years. It probably started around the COVID era because that was the year that we actually had money left over and were able to put it into the non-lapsing fund. But you can see right around here, this is the COVID era. We had a very low budget increase that year. So we had to backfill probably starting then and forward. But it's just right around COVID where there was 2 years in a row, the year that the schools closed down for 2 months and then the year that we were hybrid for a good chunk of the year, expenses went down. So we were able to put some money in non-lapsing. And then, over time, the lower budgets that you see early on this chart caught up to us. And, there was always the grapple, and the town was always trying to help us find solutions, but there was just a concern about having a higher, budget increase than 4% or 5%. So, and a commitment on all of our sides not to lay off staff. And between those two factors, the only resolution was to rely on non-lapsing monies. Now we have put it in the budget and then there are years that we have not used it. When you have a budget of this size, you are like, today's a snapshot. Today's what I believe that we need for next year. I don't know what's going to happen down the road. Is someone going to come and go who's higher or lower in salary? Are unfunded mandates going to happen in the legislative session? Are some of the budget items that we, last year we had sadly, a lot of savings in the para line because we couldn't fill the positions. So you have a snapshot in a budget and you think you're going to spend a certain amount of money and then it doesn't come to fruition. So we try to be very judicious about that. We have projected to use money, non-lapsing money this year. I don't know how much of it we'll use. It's too soon to tell. We don't usually know that till very late in the fiscal year.
For our next budget meeting, I believe we have Monday.
Yes.
Would you be able to, because I know in the past there's been a chart of how many, starting from 2017, 2016, the first year that we established a non-lapsing fund, the balance, and then how much we've used would be helpful to show.
That I can do.
Mr. Haas?
For the years where your expenses were down due to COVID, if you recall how much they decreased, and then I guess part of my question is if we knew that this many buses were going to come up or expire, I guess, during that time frame, why didn't we use any of the reduced expenses toward purchasing buses in those years?
Actually, we did. So some of those years where you saw the orange was low, we were able to use monies that were not expended on other things to buy buses, just because we had to. So we did do that. That kind of kept us afloat for a little while. In terms of how much money, I would say during that, dating back, COVID started 1920, then went into 2021. I would say over the course of those years, we had over $1 million left over at the end of the year, which we put into non-lapsing. But I think to the chairman's point, I will create a chart to show everyone that history, so I don't try to guess it. But yeah, it'd say the last 4 or 5 years, we've had a balance in non-lapsing, and a good chunk of that is due to COVID residuals. And then we all got substantial amount of money from state and federal grants as well to further offset expenses. But yeah, we have, to be honest with you, when we had some residual money, frankly, the money that was in the capital budget last year was not even enough to buy one bus. So we had to supplement that with some leftover resources. So we've always kind of been cobbling together bus money for quite some time. Like I said very early on in my tenure here, there was some of that health benefit credit, but that has gone away. So that was, I believe, how my predecessors funded the buses for a number of years. Now it's really through the capital ask, as well as if we get, some leftover resources that we can apply to a bus.
All your hands went up at once. So I'll go AJ first.
As far as the 1.5 mil to fix the bubble issue, can you be a little bit more descriptive to like what impact that has? Like how many buses does that equate to? Or like what would the funds would be used for? About 10?
At 157, it was 9.5.
9. All right. So and then we have 31 coming up that need replacing soon. So then safe to say that you would need around like 3 times as much to fully kind of get into like a stable position.
Not all of the 31 buses need to be replaced in this year. So they do have, it's through to 2030 where those 31 buses will need to be replaced. So
within the next like 4 years or so.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's when you'll get this presentation, it has the numbers, and then there's a chart that Dr. Brummer didn't show, but it's slide 3. Yeah, that one. It's not just full-size buses that are 150,000. There's other vehicles in the fleet that will need replacement over the next few years. But that's just more information to look at.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Eve? Eve is yes.
Yes, my question, thank you for the presentation, but my question has to do with that. You mentioned during your presentation that because the paras don't receive medical benefits, that at the end of the year, there's some kind of you draw upon some kind of funding for bonuses. What is it that you have in that category of funding? And would you consider foregoing, if it's anything that would help to apply it to benefits for paras, would you forego the bonuses and add that to funding to secure the para benefits?
Absolutely. Let me go back to my presentation. If we were to get approval for the para benefits, then we could deduct. I know, I'm going past it. There it is. So if para insurance is funded, we could reduce the time work bonus by $105,000, and that could be used toward the 1.6 million. And we could reduce the number of building subs by 100,000. So those are our current estimates. And because we did have to leave some money in the time work bonus because we anticipate 25 to 30% of paras will not take benefits. So they would want that benefit to remain, but the rest would forego it. But it's well worth it because the benefits are much more of a richer benefit than just the time work bonus.
Mr. Newton?
This question is more for the town manager. What is 1 mil equivalent to in terms of millions? Is it 2.5 or?
I believe it's about $2.5 million.
So if we're asking for a 7%, we're really asking for 3.5 mils. Cause I look at it as both a parent and the taxpayers. So it's a 3.5 mil for the full ask. And everything's responsible that we're asking for, but I just want to know what the impact is. Thank you.
Ms. Budrico?
Back, again, on the paras, and I do realize how important they are, and I actually serve on the board at IEA in West Hartford, so I understand their importance. But you did indicate that currently you have 25 vacancies for paras. Now, I guess, number one, how are you accounting for that in the budget? Are you accounting for that as a whole, not a hole in the budget,
Fully
but
staffed.
are you actually?
They're budgeted for, so that's how last year we had realized savings because we couldn't fill those vacancies. So that's why there was money left over, but they are budgeted for.
They are
those
budgeted
vacancies,
for.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you are able to, if this transpires and we are able to fill those vacancies, there will not be an impact on the budget.
No, it's already in the budget. But I can appreciate that question. And again, last year there was a question about why we had money that we could put into non-lapsing, and a good chunk of that was para positions that remained unfilled.
Okay. And I just have two more quick questions. How much is going to be left in your non-lapsing account?
I don't know this year, but I will have, I don't know right now, regardless if I don't have the data in front of me, but we won't know how much we're going to use this year until probably June. Currently the balance is about 3.2 million. So we had projected to use over 2 million of that. I just don't know how that's going to play out. I can predict right now, probably not all of that because of the para vacancies, and we've actually had some favorable special ed reductions in expenses this year as well. So those are two things that are working in our favor. So if I had to put the magic ball right now, I'd say we probably will not use as much as we predicted we would use.
And then just the final, I don't know if it's kind of a question or a comment as well. Back to the unfunded mandates, you said it costs us about 400,000 a year.
Just in those mandates, previous mandates from years gone by are now part of the
Part of the
budget.
budget.
I'm just trying to illuminate the most recent ones.
But when you get together with your buddies at the state, the other superintendents and whatever, I mean, it's not a Newington problem.
It is not.
It's a statewide problem. And I hear our legislators keep talking about, the impact, we got to reduce the impact of, on our residents for property taxes, and we were over reliance on property taxes or whatever, but yet they keep putting in these mandates that
Correct.
are the only way they can be funded is through property taxes.
That's correct.
So when you do have these presentations or discussions to the state, is there a way for all of you to get together and say, this is what it is costing
Yes.
us? I mean, are they aware of?
They are.
the impact?
I reached out, we have through CAPS, one of the groups I belong to, a lobbyist. And I was reaching out to them today. I said, oh my, ECS is flat funded. That's yet another burden to our town because expenses are going up and we're flat funding. It doesn't make any sense. So I immediately emailed our 3 local representatives, say, guys, this is not good. But we all testify at the state. I've testified many times. We have a lobbyist. We set priorities through our organization. I was notorious in the state during that reading legislation as being someone that was fighting it tooth and nail because it was an unfunded mandate. So there was, we do a lot of those things. Some have impact and some don't. Some of the special ed grants that came through this year were the result of some advocacy that we did with other task force, but sometimes it falls on deaf ears. If ECS stays flat funded, that's just an outrage.
And yeah, Dr. Roman does do a lot of advocacy work through CAPS and then also on her own, you know, just Google it for any, you can look at testimony in the House.
Be any benefit though of joint advocacy at the state level between the superintendents of schools and the town managers? Because it really, it's a question for, it's an issue for both. And I mean, the legislators have got to stop this, or else don't give us this song and dance about, oh, we know about property taxes and whatever. I think this is an issue where both could.
I used to
be in
serve on
front
an
of
interagency panel, which included mayors, town managers, and I'll tell you, it was a frustrating experience. Everyone around the table wanted to do the right thing, but not a whole lot of momentum happened. Reports were done, studies were done, but nothing really changed. But I still don't give up. None of my colleagues don't give up. We spend our time trying to make everyone understand what these impacts are. Even at the federal level, special ed is we get peanuts from the federal government for special ed. I was special ed director years ago, and the IDA grant hasn't gone up that much. So we don't get enough federal dollars, and certainly the state is not picking up their fair share.
I think the town managers can also maybe add a voice to, you know. there's something to
Absolutely. I
consider.
mean, all of us have different organizations we belong to, and I think we just have to keep at it.
I just want to say, just back to your question on the non-lapsing, I just want to caution, even though there's money in non-lapsing potentially for like funding para benefits this year, and not that that's where you're going, but I know it's probably going to come up. We do need to, it will be an ongoing cost. So taking something out of your savings, as you all know, taking it out of a savings account doesn't mean that you're going to have that money available in future years. And this is something that we do want to continue. If we get it, we do want to fund it. So I mean, the board will look at the budget and see where we are and what, you know, this is the first time we've seen it as well, just at the same time as you guys. So we have a lot of discussions, but I just want to put that out there that it's not necessarily, the answer isn't necessarily, let's just pull from that 3.2 million or whatever amount is in there, but we will look at that as we go on. You, Ms. Weave.
I was just going to say, like, Councilor Berry Draco, preach. It is one of the things I think that's really hard. I think even the ones where, like, I've been supportive of, but I've changed my tune. Like, I was a huge advocate back in my like college days of the financial literacy requirement. So Connecticut was one of the few that didn't have a financial literacy requirement. There's also a difference between requiring to be offered versus required to be taken, those kinds of things. But in the last couple sessions, I've been like, now sitting at a board table, do not require this without any funding, because this also means that you have to relicense a teacher. You have to make sure that there is the staffing for that there is the materials for that, there is X, Y, or Z, and not only for this year, but years to come. And so even ones I think like we would agree, everyone should have that, right? I think that is a fundamental, bipartisan, universal thing that we want. And even so, then in the implementation, it goes awry because there is no funding attached to it. So I think more and more, and increasingly so in the past couple of years, we've seen just more and more of those unfunded mandates. I think well-intentioned policies of ideas of indoor air quality. Everyone wants their kids to have safe indoor air quality. That is not a question. It is just all of the reporting mechanisms are now falling on us, and it is burdened by us. So I think one of the things that is a beautiful thing that brings all of us towns together is how crazy it's become, because ultimately this is where rubber meets the road and it hits our budget and it hits all of our pocketbooks the same on that. So very much willing to work with any and all of you on how we can get some of these out just or more funding or whatever it can be to kind of do that. And I think also I just wanted to clarify when we talk about ECS funding, maybe just a quick re-explainer about that because it's a very complicated formula that I believe only like 2 people in the state know the whole formula and that kind of stuff.
Maybe Lisa Hammersley, but probably not.
Maybe not, but just if we could clarify that, sorry.
It's money that the state allocates to every district, and it is based on a complex mathematical calculation that, as Ms. Weaver said, is impossible to unpack. But districts with more impoverished students, more needy students get more money, and wealthier districts, some wealthier districts get very little. I mean, I think some of our New Canaans and they get maybe a couple $100,000. And then your Hartfords, your Waterburys get, and when to make a point, Lynn looked at it because she's coming in from Bristol and she's, you only get that much in ECS money? So we're much different than a Bristol and a Waterbury, where they're probably getting $50 to $60 million. How much did Bristol get, Lynn, off the top of your head? Yeah, so it is weighted by need, by size of your district, by your high need population. And it just is an interesting formula and it's meant to try to help offset costs, but it doesn't do enough.
And I guess just to add, when it's flat funded or it's not fully funded, there was talk of this in the legislature last year of it getting fully funded and these kinds of things. But it's not actually fully funded yet. So I think just to clarify too, like if you hear, oh, the ECS getting fully funded and all these things, we're not seeing that yet. So we're also, there's not dollars we're not missing here in that way.
We get it. We take every dollar we can take. Write every grant we can get, but no, ECS is a pass through. It just goes right to the town and it's dictated by the state. They tell everyone what they're getting.
And if you want to do some research, because it's a very interesting website, it's schoolstatefinance.org, and it shows you different town breakdown. It'll show you there's tons of data and it attempts to explain the formula, but it is very interesting website to look at if you get a chance. Mr. Plord.
Thank you. Yeah, just another quick question. So obviously, there's a significant chunk of vacancies for paraprofessionals. We'd be having a much different question if we were busting at the seams and you had more than enough paraprofessionals and all of the vacancies were filled and et cetera. But I do wonder, obviously, because the need on the student population is growing, it's exceeding. Do you anticipate this population of professionals in the schools increasing, right? That number jumping from, I think it's 104 or 110 to far more than that over the next several years? Is that something that, you account for as an administration when you're thinking of how to atone for these long-term needs of these students? Is the answer going to be a vastly larger pool of paraprofessionals or other kinds of assistant teachers?
It could increase. We tried a couple years ago to analyze whether we could, for lack of a better word, trade in 3 to 4 vacant para positions for a teacher, which was equivalent dollars wise. We were able to do that at a few schools based on the needs, but it didn't have a wide scale impact because a lot of these paras do jobs that a teacher cannot or should not do. And, that's just an obligation. Some kids have individualized needs that are very, very significant. We even have a few kids in the district that have their own nurse. So there is certain jobs that just have to be dedicated to a paraprofessional. What's in the budget for next year, though, is my best, together with special education, what we believe based on student IEPs is needed for next year. It's fluid, though. A student could move in tomorrow with an IEP a mile long and a para in the IEP. And the IEP is the plan that students come in with that dictates what services they have to have.
And it's protected by law and we have to.
We have to do it.
So,
It's not an option.
And that's why if there's vacancies, we have to fill in with building subs or whatever, because every single day the student is in the classroom, they need their para or a support, whatever is listed in their IEP.
Thank you both.
Yeah, go ahead.
The 4 new courses that you're anticipating in the high school, will those require staff additions?
No, they're very low cost. The only expense involved is a little bit of curriculum writing. And a lot of our resources are open source, and some of them may have some book requirements, but it's very minimal. Maybe each course is a couple of $1,000s. So no staff required, no.
Are there any other questions, comments? Mr. Mayor? Oh,
I know I keep doing that. Yeah, can we just get a copy of your slideshow sent to us, please? Yeah.
absolutely. It'll be, yeah, sure, yeah.
Absolutely, it'll be in your inbox tomorrow morning. Or maybe tonight if I still having a lot of energy when I get home. And mark your calendars on a more positive and exciting note. We're going to have our musical coming up, Anastasia, and I'm sending you all an invite to come to that and maybe enjoy some refreshments from our culinary students. You probably got that today, but see that? We're ahead of the game. Anyway.
Mr. Mayor, did you have?
No more questions. I just wanted to say thank you again for your presentation tonight and for all your information in this book. I know, we have a lot of work to do and you guys have a lot of work to do still, but I'm excited for another budget process and looking forward to work with you guys. So thank you for everything tonight. Appreciate it.
Mr. Sharma?
So I just want to thank everyone at the town council for coming over. Mayor John, thank you for coming. And we look forward to working with you guys and, and I think three things I want to highlight is bus replacement and then of course benefits for our paraprofessionals. And one more thing I want to highlight is the contracts. I think what's the how much of the budget is in terms of salary contracts for I think it's like a 3-year contract. So it's about
well over.
yeah. So that is
It's a huge impact.
So it's kind of a fixed cost for us, and something that has to be funded no matter what because of contract. So something for you guys to keep in mind. Thank you.
Mr. Halloran?
And just a comment to echo what everybody else has said, Mr. Mayor, town manager, town council, thank you so much. I think the more we get you involved in this process early, it's the first time we're seeing the budget too. The more you're involved with not just the dollar amount, but the reasoning, the why and the impact behind it. Who's the impact? Where is the need? It's never easy to come up with a budget because yes, we want to do the right thing and give our kids what we need, but at the same time, we've got to do right by the taxpayers of the town. At the same time, it's a very hard and important part of both of our jobs. So thank you very much. But I also want to thank everybody sitting along the back wall. The staff of NPS, you've sat through very long discussions because you believe it's the right thing to do for our students, right? You're here to advocate for what you need and inform us what you need and testify how uncomfortable those chairs can be after about an hour and a half. But thank you very much. I know most of you have been up early, hence the job, and I think it says a lot.
Ms. Weaver?
One more.
And everybody online.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
In more comfy chairs.
All of that, and yeah, all of that ditto. And I would just encourage, thank you so much for coming tonight. I know this is not always in the past as we've had such a great attendance of town council and having this together and having a true joint meeting just to be able to, one, lay it all out there. So appreciate you taking the time for coming. And I would just encourage you, if you have more questions, I think there is always an open policy about if you have any questions, that email is always open for Dr. Brummett and her team to be able to answer anything. And I know last time, I think we had a list of questions that went back and forth and I think were shared with everyone. So appreciated that transparency and that collaboration last time. So would just encourage the same this year. But thank you for doing that. And I would echo again to our incredible staff. And I would just like to give special shout outs to Lynn and everyone on the admin team who has put together the books once again this year. Karen's here, yes, who is resting. Aptly so. These are so much smaller and so much more efficient. So looking forward to a new type of budget book. So appreciate all the work that was already done on the front end of all of this.
Yes, and you'll notice the budgets are by school for the majority. So I'm looking forward to hearing from our school principals of all the things that they asked for, in a kind of different way to look at things this year. So, yeah, that'll be exciting. And we will be back here Monday night to continue. So you guys are all welcome to come back Monday, 7 p.m. But with that, if you did want to vacate, or you can stick around for our policy discussions. And out. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time. Yeah, just make a motion.
Motion to recess for 5 minutes.
All right, we motion a second. Is there, to recess, any discussion? All in favor? All right, recess for 5 minutes. Come back at 9:06. Okay, back from recess.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. 9:07, back, yes, returning from our brief recess. Thank you. Optimistic to say 9:06. Okay. We're back to number 1 on new business, board policies in the 7,000 series.
Great.
Yay.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, go for it.
Sorry. Okay, so this is going back to last meeting. Didn't hear anything about any of the 7,000 series. So we reviewed them last one, just for public awareness. Reviewed them all last meeting, last regular meeting. And we had reviewed them again before that. So this is actually like the 4th time it's coming to a board, but coming before the board. Any discussion so far? Okay. If not, I can make a motion if that's okay. We can move the Board of Education approve the recommended revisions and renumbering of the 7,000 construction series policy as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the 7,000 series. Any discussion? All right, please. Roll call vote.
Yes.
Sean Howard,
Yes.
Marissa Lindsay,
Yes.
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Brian Skibo,
Yes.
Karma,
Yes.
Dr. Gail Stanley,
Yes.
Jessica Weaver.
Yes.
The motion passed unanimously 9-0.
Yay. Just want to note and put that into the record that that is another series done. So we've done the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 7,000. There's no 8,000. Don't worry about that. And then we're just going to go and move on to the 9,000s. Okay. So with that, just wanted to clarify, on this page that has up, we're going to strike through 90/30. So if we could just have that, like, for the record, when I say we're going to pass the 9,000 ones, the board and staff communications is still to be reviewed and revised.
Maybe just say it in the motion with the
Exception of, yeah. Okay. Just want to clarify that. And then the other one that I think is in need of review again, is the 6142. If we could just bring that one up. Although it's not, oh, that's why it's not working. I don't have internet. Yeah, I was going to ask.
Just going to say there's a couple errors errors. Maybe I just want correctly.
No worries. I was going to actually turn it over to any of the relevant administrators that could discuss this policy.
Okay, I'm going to do my best. So were we here last week?
Yeah.
Last week when we were together, we were talking about this policy, and it involves a lot of changes. I think it went from about 2 pages to 9 pages. So much of this is based on an assessment that we do, and it makes sure that we are complying with first and foremost federal regulations. And if we don't, that means that we suffer financial hits, which we never want to have. And then some of them are just guidelines around wellness. And so Mrs. Markovich usually kind of spearheads that, and I work with her because part of it is in through curriculum. So Mr. Farisi had presented this last week. There were some questions, most notably about celebrations and foods we can and cannot bring in. So when I met with Mr. Farisi following that meeting, if you look through the policy, Jessica, I don't know if you need to scroll down. Keep going.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr.
To the
Burma, you're
te- like the
scrolling.
teal.
Oh, you're going to see a light blue highlight. And like an obnoxious yet. Yep, right there. So what we decided to do was that we decided to strike the language that is in it's not a policy, it is how we do business in Newington Public Schools related to celebrations. You remember we had a long conversation about the 4 weeks and the notes and all of this sort of stuff. That is an internal document and we follow it. But we decided that it doesn't have to be codified in policy. It's just not needed in there. So instead, we went to more general language to meet the federal requirement, and so you can see in yellow, it says refers to FR, that's a federal regulation. It's really only elementary schools. So I guess there's less concern about allergens in middle and high school, but it only pertains to elementary. So we adopted the elementary school language in there. And then you can see highlighted in yellow is there's just a mention of the procedures outlined by the district nurse administrator, which is what we have. What I do know about policy writing too is that we want to use the most general language so that if we have a new nursing supervisor and he or she says, I don't like this, we're not coming back and revising that whole policy. Questions on that?
Just to clarify, so essentially, I think, and I appreciate this, is that this is more codifying the generalized language into policy, and then ultimately the schools will have their regulations, which we don't vote on. But it would be in a manual about like how the procedures it would be.
Yes, but it wouldn't be codified as a regulation.
Right.
Under this.
Right. It would be
This is right. It's like a student handbook sort of thing. Yes, this is just what we do to follow safety procedures.
Thank you.
Questions on that? Then we're going to move down to physical education. So we're in red font with yellow highlights. Here we go. So we modified some of this language. The regulation does speak to, so the regulation from the assessment really does speak to physical education. But throughout our conversations, me and Stephen, we decided that the physical activity at recess, even though there is not instruction that is being involved, that physical activity is definitely an extension of physical education. So we're in no way spinning the language. It's just we really wanted to represent what Newington Public Schools does. So we decided to put into the policy what we actually do. What we had before is what is required by this assessment. So that's going to come up like, so wait a minute. Every time we do this assessment, we're not going to get full credit for that item. And yes, that is correct. There's been a lot of years that we don't get full credit for a lot of the items, but this is not a federal regulation. So Stephen and I agreed that it was better practice to be transparent and honest about the number of minutes of physical education that we offer, period. And honestly, if we had said that we aim to and use the requirement, it's nowhere near it. So that's going to be that was our suggestion, is to just lay out those minutes. Unfortunately, actually all of those numbers are wrong, so we're just going to have to change those. So I just want to first see if there's any questions about why we did that.
Mr. Halloran?
Just a question on the physical education. Is this part of the policy or is this part of the regulation?
Policy.
This is all policy.
I'm wondering if the actual amount of minutes needs to be in the policy or if it fits better in a regulation.
There's no regulation.
Or I don't know, I think it's what's in policy. Will it ever be adjusted in 2 years? I'm just a question of, it's getting codified. Does it make sense to codify in a particular amount of minutes or can we make it more general?
So it's going to, and I don't mean to be flip at all. It depends if we're okay of getting, you have 3 scores on the assessment. A 0 means no. A 1 is good job, but not quite. And 2 is you're making it. So this is a 1. If we do that and we're very vague, it is a 0 on the assessment. So I think maybe the discussion for the board is going to be, where does the importance lie for you in what is said here? And remember, this is not a curriculum and instruction policy. This is a student wellness policy. And I know that they intersect, but does that make sense in terms of like,
Yes.
it's a different, right?
It does. I think I'm just like at a point like where we codify it into like practically a bylaw, but it gets very specific into what we do. It tends to be more of a regulation rather than a policy of we will attempt to achieve the maximum amount of minutes, without specifically naming it. I think it's fine the way it is. It's just kind of a question where I'm thinking,
Like you're noting, sorry, that if we put vague in of, it would say like, we will have students use up to the maximum recommended minutes by X
exactly.
thing. No.
We don't do that either. Maybe at the elementary school, but what's recommended by the state, we don't meet that either.
So I'm not really raising my hand, but I am. So, okay, 5th grade gets recess, fine. But 6th through 12th grade, if they're not taking their gym class, which is freshman year, what physical activity or physical education are they receiving or should be receiving? And if putting it in the policy and we're not doing it, like what are the...
So this is the best that I can explain it. This policy is connected to school wellness. It is not about a curricular mandate. It is not an unfunded mandate where now the state is going to say, we will take away dollars if you don't do this. It aligns to a very specific assessment. And I think that Stephen showed part of that last week when we were here. To answer your question, in the high school, our students are required to have 1 full credit of physical education. That is pretty much standard in all Connecticut public schools. We don't have public schools saying it at 4 credits, but a way that a lot of schools might structure that is that students engage in physical education every year. So for 1 semester, they would have it 1 semester, but they would have it, like if they run on a A through E day, they would have it once every 3 days. But the minutes usually end up being the same. So unfortunately, that number there, 73, it should be 50. So yes, so when you think about it now in the minutes per week, on average for a Newington High School student, they receive 50 minutes a week physical education instruction. Because you have to take, remember, they only take PE for what's equivalent to 181 days. In each of those days, there's about 42 minutes, but then you have to divide it over the entire time that a student is at Newington High School, which is for full 4 years. It was a lot of algebra for us to do this. So we made a couple of mistakes. We actually made some jokes that we needed the bridge program.
Can you explain that one more time? Just like the
Letter G.
like, yeah.
Okay, so the assessment gives us language about an average number of instructional minutes per week. So we want the language in here to talk about every week throughout the school year. Okay. Students who are juniors and seniors, they generally don't take PE. So they're 0. In grade 9, they take PE for 1 semester every day. Then the other semester, none. Ditto in 10th grade. So when you take all of that and put it together and multiplying and dividing and converting from minutes to hours and weeks and days and all of that stuff, but a year is only 181 days, it comes out to, on average, a high school student has, we got to correct the math, 50 minutes per week of instruction with physical education. It's not how active the kid is.
Okay.
How much instruction.
So, okay. So my question was, are we out of compliance? But we're not, because doing the math, they are getting 50 hours, 50 minutes.
We're out of compliance with the assessment that this is aligned to. There are no federal dollars attached to this. If we want to be in compliance, you need to bring the town council back in. We need to have a whole nother conversation about the number of physical education teachers. I cannot imagine that there is a high school in the state of Connecticut that is aligned with that.
But there's no
Okay.
penalty.
I'm sorry?
But there's no penalty.
No, we just get our score back saying, you know, your policy should really say this. The biggest change, I'm so sorry, Mr. Holland. Remember, the biggest change here is that we didn't have any language whatsoever in components from that assessment. That was the thing we had to fix. It became a mandate for March 1st. What we're going to be out of compliance with is not having the policy. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I guess my just concern is putting something in a policy that we're not actively doing. I know it doesn't matter, but
Right. So that's what Stephen and I talked about, that let's just be upfront, and we know that these numbers will not match on the assessment. So we're not going to get the high score of a 2. We're going to get a 1 because we have very specific language. To Sean's point before about we could just be general. You get 1 point for having very specific language. However, it's not the number of recommended minutes. So we just decided, let's just put in what it is that we do.
Okay.
Except these numbers just need to be modified.
So do we want to come back with this one more time, or do we have time? Yeah. Do we have time to do it
We're
before?
meeting like 17 times before March 1st.
I know.
So, yeah.
Is it allowed at a budget meeting to, because those are usually special meetings?
We'll make sure we post it as such.
Just so it's clear that the minutes are whatever, we could do it next week and that's okay still from a timeline.
We have the 25th, I believe it's February 25th is a regular meeting,
Yeah.
so we can pop it in.
Is that enough time for you guys? Okay. I didn't know if there was like a process of like, we
You can ask your new
snail mail
assistant
2 weeks,
superintendent
yeah.
of schools if that's enough for him. He starts on March 1st, so you can ask him if he's
So
going to have
on
it.
March
Just
1st,
kidding, Dan.
Mr. Dyes will upload the policy and we'll be in compliance.
Yeah, so Jessica, if it's okay, I'll touch base with you after the meeting and I'll show you the real minutes that we need to have on there and we'll be good.
Okay. Thank you for and doing all that math.
Yes, it's a little
Okay.
confusing. Sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Halloran.
It was so confusing that we
little
got it
confusing.
wrong, even
It
after
is.
doing it 2
I'm
times
not a
through.
huge fan of writing a policy just to pass a survey, even though it's not directly reflecting or impacting our students in the way that's intended. So I feel a little conflicted, but I get it. I just, one point of clarification, the first line said pre-K through 4th will have education instruction. And the other line just said physical education. Does that verbiage matter? The word instruction, should it be included on every line or not?
Physical education instruction. Yeah.
So we decided to put, like in letter D, we wanted to specify that students in pre-K through 4 get physical education instruction. So there is a certified physical education teacher in front of the children providing instruction, which is different than physical activity, which would be recess. So that's why we were just really, I think the word instruction is what really specifies that it is part of connected to a curricular program.
As long as it's intentional, I'm fine with it.
Yes, it was very intentional. Though it sounds weird.
Okay.
Yes, so I'm going to make a very specific motion that does not deal with this at all. So I'm going to move the Board of Education approve the recommended revisions and renumbering of the 9,000 bylaws of the board series with the exception of 9030 board staff communications.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Vote please.
Mary Beecher,
Yes.
John Powell,
Yes.
Marissa Lenford,
Yes.
Timothy Newton,
Yes.
Amy Parati,
Yes.
Brian Spiro,
Yes.
Dan Sharma,
Yes.
Dr. Gail Stanley,
Yes.
Jessica Weaver.
Yes.
The motion passed unanimously 9-0.
So we'll bring that, whatever number it was, back at some point in the future. Yes, that one.
Haven't gotten to renumbering the 6,000 yet.
So yeah, we'll bring that back
Jenny.
at a future date, maybe the 25th, which is our next regularly scheduled board meeting, as long as we do it before March 1st. All right, and 3195.
So this one is up. I think there were just 2 revisions on this. This is in accordance with the March 1st compliance date. This is a policy we had already updated or really introduced in this past year in October. But what needed to be added, and we went back and forth on this. So if we hit the policy, there are just 2 yellow lines of adding. I can recall Ms. Carr and we were talking at length about the a la carte items. But it said adults are not allowed to charge meals or a la carte items. So just clarifying that part. And then if you scroll down, the biggest part would be for the March 1st compliance date is the practice of the unpaid meal debt.
Does this currently happen?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
We are not voting.
This is the first time we're bringing it, so we can bring it back, and I will also convene with my members of policy committee and see if maybe we could do a quick in-between virtual or something before the March 1st, knowing these have come up quite quickly, so.
Okay.
But if you have any questions, please email the policy committee.
Mr. Halloran. She said email, not ask.
No, it's fine.
It's not specifically about that policy, which is why I just called for the floor for a second. I did attend Anna Reynolds PTA last night, and there was just an ask of how can we make sure PTAs are all playing by the same policy and the same rules. And I did give a little shout out to like recategorizing them so they're easier to find. So just a shout out to the policy committee because that's a lot of work and there's a good reason behind that. But also I think it goes to one of the policies that we didn't talk about is like the communications, and we're talking about forming the communication committee. And I think one of the things that might be beneficial is kind of having a little section for PTA members. It's like, hey, check this out. Just to put a little bug in the air, kind of like a non-formal orientation, just so everybody knows what to do, because especially that meal policy, that's been going back and forth, that does affect the PTA. So just wanted to bring that up.
All right. Public participation on any matter related to board responsibilities. If there's anyone online. There's one person online. I was a Newington resident. And no hands and no one in the room. So remarks by board members. Mr. Halloran.
Really not doing this intentionally. Just thank you, everybody. It was a long meeting. Ms. Diaz, nice to have you at the table. Really, really happy to see you here. Look forward to working with you. You're coming in at a terrible time. Right.
No, it's
But
the best time.
it's a matter of perspective. Also, my daughter's on the student council for John Wallace, and she was asked to see if what we would like as a board as a gift to put things out there. So if you have any ideas, please see me after class.
Ms. Beatrice. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Ms. Beatrice.
Just to say thank you to Dr. Brummett and your team. I know this is not the easiest thing to do, and it comes up quicker and quicker and quicker every year. So thank you so much. I know it's a lot to juggle. The decisions that we talked about tonight impact all of our students in some way or another. I want to thank the members of the town council and our mayor and their staff for joining us tonight and really giving a good collaborative discussion and listening to how each and every one of these items in the book impacts our student and our school community. I can't stress strongly enough, as you know, some of our colleagues here have done, the importance of our paras and how they truly are the backbone of providing the best educational possible to our students. And these are our most vulnerable students. These are the ones that need the most help. And it's our responsibility as a community to give them the tools that they need to be successful. Investing in infrastructure, whether it is human infrastructure or our buses, is never easy. And sometimes it's hard for us to really present a clear picture about the benefits of that. But an investment is just that, it's an investment. And it ultimately fulfills our mission to give our students the best educational opportunity that we can possibly do. We are all very aware of the impact that this has on our community of people who maybe don't have kids in the schools or their kids have already graduated. But when we do what we can for our students, we lift up our entire community. These are people who stay in our community, make contributions in real positive ways. And we're doing a disservice to our students and our staff if we're not showing them the respect and the understanding of the commitment and the contribution that they make to our students. So I really want to thank everybody who was here tonight and listening and gave a full listen to why these things are so important. I'm really excited to hear their contributions and how we can move forward together as a team to do what we can for the students and the staff of the school.
Thank you, Ms. Beatrice. Ms. Weaver?
All of that and more, just want to reiterate thanks to all of the staff. And I'm just going to give a pre-thanks for all of the hours you're about to do and all of these to everyone here at the table. Thank you in advance for putting in the time and effort. I know it's going to be long and hard, but someone's definition of fun. So thank you for that. And I just wanted to note too, this past weekend, our Representative Turco he hosted a Teachers Advisory Council that Mr. Hall and I attended. And it was just really helpful to hear from teachers that are both teaching in the district, but teachers and residents that are teachers outside the district to hear what's going on in our DIRG, what's going on in other ones. So I just wanted to say thank you. He knows how I feel about unfunded mandates and other things and all of our education policy in the state. But I think one of the things that's important is really just being able to listen to kind of where we are, what are the struggles. And I know there's a lot of struggles that are statewide here that we're grappling with here. So thank you for acknowledging some of those things that are clearly contributing to our budget and those kinds of things that will contribute to all the town's budgets in the state. But I think this is obviously the important work and why we do this. So thank you all for participation of night one and many nights to come. Hopefully not many more. But yeah.
Ms. Lindsay?
Oh, sorry.
I want to thank everybody, just umbrellaed everybody. But I also want to say I'm glad we're doing this for the paras, that we're looking into this, because I know my daughter's paras stayed with her through Wallace only to be with her. As soon as she graduated, went to the high school, she went to another town. I don't remember what town she said she went to. So we're losing good paras by. So I'm glad we're looking and doing this for the paras.
Yeah. And yeah, I know we're all on the table, kind of around the table in favor of the benefits for our para educators, but just before this, I was in my social work for healthcare class, and we literally talked about how healthcare is a basic human right and that everyone deserves to have healthcare, health coverage, just for a number of reasons. And if we have healthy staff, we have healthy students. And so I think it is very important. And I look forward to working with the town and working with everyone on the table to hopefully figure out how we can get it done for them, because it is very important. So yeah, and looking forward to Miss Freeman speaking.
I know I'm not on the board, Mr. Halloran. I am going to take your suggestion and cross out the word instruction because I looked at the paragraph below and it talks about certified teachers. So
Thank you.
Just want to.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to that update in the future.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned 9:37 p.m.
What are we doing, Mr. Holleran?
I saw you.
You're gonna be there.
I haven't been able to make a motion in several meetings.
So, okay.